Okay, we're gonna opt for the optional view again. Elsie said she liked this view yesterday, so we're gonna go with this one because my phone has to charge again. And so yeah, so hopefully you can still see me, and you'll be able to but you won't need to see the board, so I can do the optional view for the other two subjects that we have to finish. So three but two. So, but anyway, so we are going to finish talking about, well, not finish, but we're going to talk some more about Orville and Wilbur Wright today. And we talked about these two brothers yesterday, and how they had such curiosity as children. They loved to learn. Their mom, we said, was kind of an inventor, and she invented and made things for the house. And so their curiosity was definitely kind of piqued. What was their father? Very good. He was a circuit riding preacher. So he would go around and be preaching. Many times he would be gone. One day he brought them back what? What did he bring them? Yes, he brought them a toy that twirled, that, kind of rubber band, and you could wind it up, winding flying toy, and they were enjoying that. After Wilbur got badly hurt by playing hockey, what did he do to help him learn at home? Something that Miss Monroe loves. Yes, he read. He read lots of books. What began Orville and Wilbur's, their lifelong partnership? Where did that partnership between those two brothers come in? Yes, when, who was it? Orville? No, Wilbur. Orville started the printing business. And when Orville started that printing business, Wilbur started in with him, and that's how their connection, that partnership to keep working together to do different things. Because what else was the next thing that they took on? They went from printing to what? To make up. Yeah, we're still printing, but we're also just, making bikes on the side. Who does that? Orville and Wilbur Wright do. So they went from printing to owning a bike shop. And they would design and build their own as well as repairing others. So that's really kind of a cool thing when you think about it. So we're on page 362. And we're going to talk about gliders and airplanes. Let me just mention this too. A person that has an imagination, that's what helps somebody. Before you can invent something, it has to be kind of there in your mind. You have to imagine it. And so from the time the Wright brothers' father brought home that little paper helicopter for them, they dreamed, they imagined flying and what that would be like. And then they let their imagination help them to keep going forward and to build something totally amazing. So as we talk about this, I really want you to think that's where this whole idea came from, that little paper helicopter that Dad bought, and they thought, we've got to do something similar to that. I think we can. And if you watch the videos, what is it? Xavier Riddle. You'll see a little bit of that. That was such a good video. Please watch that. It was so good. Anyway, gliders and airplanes. Orville became very ill. While he spent time recovering, Wilbur read to him. One day as he read, Wilbur said, "Listen to this, Orville. A man in Germany has made a glider and tried to fly." "We could do that," Orville said. Orville and Wilbur started working on their glider by looking at the problems other gliders had. They learned from the failures of others. So guess what? Like we've said, and even in Xavier Riddle, he said, failures are okay. They help us to learn. So learn from the failures. Don't think, oh, it's done. We got to give up. It's too hard. We're never going to be able to do it. That's why I loved that video. You have to watch that. They learned from the failures of others. They designed many different types of wings. They experimented with different ways to control the plane. This was a challenge, but they did not give up. Did you see on the PBS? and you're like, maybe this time. Nope. And it's just, I loved that because it just showed they failed several times, and they did not give up. That is the key, third grade. That is the key. Finally, they found a way to make it work. Together, the Wright brothers were the perfect pair. They worked side by side, designing the gliders, building them, and improving their designs. They did not feel as though this was work. To Wilbur and Orville Wright, this was fun. And that's the thing. If you make it fun, it can be fun. It depends on your whole attitude towards it. So make it fun and it will become fun. The Wright brothers knew they needed to find a good location to test their glider. They needed a place with few people, constant winds, and soft sand for their landing. They wrote the Weather Bureau to find out the perfect spot. And that perfect spot was Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. So here's a bonus fact. The Weather Bureau, now called the National Weather Service, is a government agency that studies and predicts the weather for the United States. It predicts what's going to come and hit the United States at any time. It sends out hurricane, tornado, flood, and blizzard warnings to states that are in the path of storms. So you'll hear on the news, like when we sometimes prepare for a big snowstorm, the National Weather Service says, Connecticut's going to get hit hard, or, be prepared. There's a tornado coming. The National Weather Service, that's where this Weather Bureau is now called the National Weather Service. It was formed to help protect citizens from severe weather. So they try to predict as closely as they can what bad weather is coming. So they wrote to them and said, where's a good place that's got not a lot of people, but constant wind so we can test this out? And it just so happened to be Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. It's in bold print, so that means you probably should remember it. We talked about it yesterday too with our important names. Wilbur and Orville brought their glider in pieces to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, along with other supplies. They built a camp and a shed to store their glider. For 3 winters, the brothers went back to Kitty Hawk to test new designs. 3 whole winters. Each flight could be considered a success because the Wright brothers learned new things with each try, even if the gliders did not fly. So it wasn't successful like they got off the ground right away. No, it didn't work. And it wasn't a success, but it was successful because we're like, oh, nope, that didn't work. Oh, nope, that's where we went wrong. Let's try it this way. Nope, those failures became opportunities to learn more. On October 23rd, 1902, they finally broke the world record for the longest glider flight. Just a little over a year later, they would be making their first airplane attempts. So finally, they got their glider to go, and for the longest flight that had been the world record. And now they're going to be like, okay, our glider can do this. Now let's get to an airplane and see what we can do there. A glider does not have an engine. So that's the difference between a glider and an airplane. The gliders float on air currents and glide through the air, kind of like a bird when it stops, flapping, when it's not flapping its wings and it's just kind of gliding and flying through the air. Today, a glider is towed behind an airplane and released into the air to glide on air currents back down to the ground. But the airplane does have a motor or engine, turns propellers to send the plane down the runway and then to lift it up into the air. The motor allows airplanes to fly long distances and to climb to great heights. So that's the difference between an airplane and a glider, just so you'll have that idea. Stop and think. A famous quote says, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Discuss how the Wright brothers refused to give up. So I want you to have that conversation with your parents. What did they do and how did they decide not to give up? First flight. On December 14th, 1903, after designing and perfecting their airplane, the weather was just right to see if it would fly. The brothers flipped a coin, and Wilbur won. He would get to fly the airplane. Their first attempt failed, but they were not discouraged. On December 17th, 1903, just what? Yep, 3 days later, when the Wright Flyer 1 had been repaired, it was time to try again. Because, you know, if it fails, it's crashing. So they had to repair it. Now it's time to try again. This time, they didn't have to flip a coin. If Wilbur got to go first, well, now it's Orville's turn. So Orville got to try. The plane did not have wheels like planes do today. It slid down a ramp to take off. This time, it did work. Orville was the first person to successfully pilot an engine-powered airplane. It flew for 12 seconds. Now, you're thinking, well, that 12 seconds, big whoop. But you think those 12 seconds in the air, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, 1012. Okay, those 12 seconds, that's a long time when you haven't gotten off the ground at all. And so for 12 seconds, Orville was able to get into the air. The brothers had given a camera, the brothers had given a camera, which was also a new invention, to a friend. I wasn't understanding how that was written. So their friend, cameras were new too. And they're like, here, you got to capture. If you can capture it on camera, that'd be great. So they gave their friend a camera. He was so excited that he almost forgot to take a picture of the first flight. Can you imagine? Because that's what this picture is on page 364. It's the first flight. And if he would have been like, oh, that's so great. Look at him. Oh, wait. I gotta get a picture because this is important. They would have been so upset. There were 3 more flights that day. Wilbur flew next. They're taking turns, obviously. And so it's funny because Wilbur got to go first, ha, 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 and it didn't work. And then Orville gets to go, ha, 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 I get to go now, and I got 12 seconds, yes! But now Wilbur flies next, and he made the longest flight of the day. He was in the air for 59 seconds. What is that? Almost 1 second away from a minute. He was in the air for 59 seconds and went about 852 feet, which is a little longer than 2 football fields. Sadly, a large gust of wind took hold of their airplane and smashed it to pieces that same day. Even though the day ended in disappointment, it had been filled with excitement. The fact that these brothers were able to make this happen, to get this plane flying, it just opened up a whole new world for everybody. And so this is so exciting, but we have to end it here, and we'll find out what else happens tomorrow as they get more flights in, even though their plane is smashed to pieces. We'll see what this more flights thing is all about. But I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Orville and Wilbur. 12 seconds for the first flight with Orville, but then Wilbur, he took the cake with almost a minute. So close, 59 seconds. So we'll find out what else happens to them tomorrow.